A software engineer earning $200,000 a year spends Saturday morning fixing his own roof to save $500. A billionaire pays someone $50 an hour to answer his emails. At first glance, the engineer seems financially prudent and the billionaire seems wasteful. But here's what's actually happening. The engineer just traded 4 hours for $500, valuing his time at $125 per hour. The billionaire paid $50 to free up an hour he'll use to make a decision worth millions. One person is optimizing for money, the other is optimizing for time. And that difference, compounded over years, is part of why one stays comfortable and the other becomes extraordinarily wealthy. The truly wealthy don't think about money the way most people do. They don't ask, "How much does this cost?" as their primary question. They ask, "What does this cost me in time, attention, and opportunity?" Because they've figured out something fundamental. Money is replaceable, time isn't. You can always make more money. You get exactly 24 hours a day, and then they're gone forever. Once you understand this, really internalize it, your entire relationship with wealth changes. Most people spend their lives trading time for money. You show up, work 8 hours, get paid. The wealthier you want to be, the more hours you work. This seems logical. It's how the world presents itself. But it has a fatal limitation. There's a ceiling. You only have so many hours. Even if you're brilliant and highly paid, even if you work 80-hour weeks, there's an upper limit to what you can earn through direct time-for-money exchange. The math simply doesn't produce billion-dollar fortunes. The 1% figured out how to invert this relationship. Instead of trading their time for money, they use money to buy time, and then use that time to build systems that generate wealth without requiring their constant presence. It's not that they don't work. Many work intensely, but they're working on things that scale, that compound, that eventually run without them. Let me give you a concrete example. A dentist and a dental practice owner might both be worth $1 million on paper. The dentist earned it by being exceptional at dentistry for 20 years, working 50 weeks a year. The practice owner earned it by opening 5 dental offices, hiring other dentists, and building systems for scheduling, billing, and patient management. The dentist can't take a month off without losing income. Their wealth is inseparable from their labor. The practice owner can disappear for a month, and the business keeps generating revenue because it doesn't depend on their hands being in someone's mouth. Same net worth, completely different relationship with time. The dentist is wealthy. The practice owner has wealth that produces more wealth while they sleep. That's the distinction the 1% understand viscerally. This isn't about being lazy or avoiding work. It's about understanding that your time is your scarcest, most valuable resource. And if you're trading it directly for dollars, you're playing a game you can't win at the highest levels. The 1% are obsessive about protecting their time because they know that's where the leverage is. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest people in history, famously has almost nothing on his calendar most days. He reads for hours. He thinks. He makes a handful of decisions per year that move billions of dollars. He's not in back-to-back meetings because he understands that his comparative advantage isn't processing emails or attending status updates. It's making high-quality capital allocation decisions. Everything else is delegated, systematized, or eliminated. His time is reserved for the activities only he can do that create asymmetric value. Compare that to most successful professionals. They're in meetings all day, responding to messages, putting out fires, doing work that feels important but doesn't actually move the needle on wealth creation. They're busy, but busy doesn't mean valuable. The 1% are ruthless about distinguishing between activity and impact. Here's where it gets interesting. When you value time over money, you make different decisions at every level. You don't mow your own lawn to save $50. You pay someone and use that time to think through a business strategy that might make you $50,000. You don't spend 6 hours researching the cheapest flight to save $100. You pay for convenience and use those 6 hours to develop a new revenue stream. You don't personally manage every detail of your investments. You pay someone competent to do it and use that mental bandwidth to identify bigger opportunities. To most people, this looks like wasteful spending, but it's not spending. It's investing. They're buying time, and they're using that purchased time to create exponentially more value than they spent. This is how wealth compounds, not just through financial returns, but through intelligent time allocation. The truly wealthy also understand something subtle about time that most people miss. Not all time is equal. An hour spent building a system that produces income for years is worth infinitely more than an hour spent earning money once. An hour spent developing a skill that increases your earning capacity is worth more than an hour spent using your current skills for immediate pay. Jeff Bezos spent years building Amazon's infrastructure, logistics systems, and marketplace platform, while the company hemorrhaged money and everyone called him crazy. He was trading immediate profitability for building systems that would eventually generate billions in cash flow with increasing efficiency. He was playing a different game, not maximizing this quarter's profit, but maximizing long-term time leverage. Now Amazon runs partially on autopilot, with hundreds of thousands of employees executing the systems he built. His time in the early years bought him decades of compounding returns. This is why the wealthy invest so heavily in automation, delegation, and systems. They're buying future time. Every process that can run without their involvement is time they get back permanently. It's not a one-time trade, it's purchasing freedom that pays dividends forever. Most people do the opposite. They optimize for short-term money even when it costs them long-term time. They take a higher-paying job that requires more hours instead of a slightly lower-paying job that gives them time to build something on the side. They do their own bookkeeping to save $200 a month, not realizing that outsourcing it would free up time to focus on activities that could generate $20,000 more per year. They're being penny-wise and pound-foolish, but with time instead of money. There's also a psychological component. The 1% have internalized that their time has enormous value. When you believe an hour of your focused attention is worth $5,000 or $50,000 in potential value creation, you become almost irrationally protective of it. You stop saying yes to things that don't matter. You become comfortable paying what seems like premium prices for anything that saves you time. You structure your entire life around maximizing high-value hours. Most people have the opposite psychology. They'll spend an hour to save $10 because they don't truly believe their time is valuable. And here's the brutal truth. If you're spending an hour to save $10, you're right. Your time currently isn't that valuable. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. As long as you act like your time is worth $10 an hour, it will be. The 1% decided early that their time was worth more than the market was paying them, and they acted accordingly. They invested time in building skills, systems, and assets that would eventually make that belief reality. Here's an example that illustrates this perfectly. In the early 2000s, Mark Cuban was already wealthy from selling his first company. He was getting hundreds of emails a day. Instead of spending hours managing his inbox, he published his email publicly and added a filter. If you want a response, donate to his favorite charity. Suddenly, only serious messages got through, and even those funded causes he cared about. He converted a time liability into both a time asset and a charitable contribution. That's 1% thinking. Solving problems in ways that normal rules don't contemplate. The truly wealthy also understand that time freedom compounds in ways money doesn't. If you have enough money to never worry about bills, but still trade all your time for more money, you're not actually wealthy, you're just a highly paid prisoner. But if you have money and time freedom, you can invest that time in relationships, health, learning, and opportunities that create both fulfillment and more wealth. You can afford to think long-term because you're not constantly scrambling for the next paycheck. This is why wealthy people will turn down lucrative opportunities that would consume too much time. $1 million consulting contract that requires 50 weeks of work per year looks attractive to most people. To someone in the 1%, it's a trap. That $1 million costs them their entire year, time they could spend building something worth $10 million or simply enjoying their life. They've run the math and realized that protecting time creates more wealth in the long run than maximizing immediate income. There's also strategic timing. The wealthy understand that certain decisions have asymmetric time implications. Hiring the right executive might take 50 hours of your time up front, but save you 2,000 hours over the next 5 years. Spending a month setting up automation systems might feel like a time investment that doesn't pay off immediately, but it purchases decades of freed-up time. They're thinking in time horizons most people don't even consider. Most people are focused on this month, this quarter, maybe this year. The 1% are thinking in decades. What compounds over 10, 20, 30 years? Not just money, time leverage, systems that run themselves, investments that generate passive income, teams that execute without constant supervision. They're building machines that produce both wealth and time freedom simultaneously. The mindset shift is profound. When you stop asking, how can I make more money? And start asking, how can I use money to buy more high-value time? Everything changes. You stop doing low-value tasks yourself. You hire people whose talents complement yours. You build systems that scale. You invest in assets that appreciate without your involvement. You become fiercely protective of your attention and your calendar. This isn't advice about what you should do, but it is an explanation of what the 1% actually do and why it works. They've decoupled wealth creation from time investment by building leverage, other people's time, other people's money, systems, technology, brand, reputation. All of these are forms of leverage that let them create value without directly trading their hours for dollars. The engineer fixing his own roof thinks he's being smart with money. The billionaire paying someone to answer emails understands he's being smart with time. And time, invested properly, is the ultimate wealth multiplier. If you value understanding how wealth actually works, the mechanics, the mindset, the systems behind it, subscribe. Next video breaks down exactly how leverage works and why it's the difference between being rich and being wealthy.